And I swear by the movies we watch for this pod, I'll be there. And I swear that for Paige, Mikey, and Todd, I'll be there. I'll be there. Rom-coms are the worst. I wish I had known, but that can't stop me from each episode. 'Cause I swear, laters, baby.
Thank you for tuning into Romancing the Podcast. You had us at hello. I'm Paige Wesley.
I'm Mikey Randolph.
And I'm Todd Schlosser. And today, Paige made us watch
Just Friends.
Okay, so I know that we've all seen this movie before, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just ask this. When was the first time you saw it?
I saw it in theaters.
Oh, did you?
I also did, and I texted my sister because I had like a flashback, and I was like, I think we saw this together, and she thinks that we saw it with my dad. I don't know that we did. I could be wrong, but my sister and I had a stretch of time when I could drive, and she was too young to drive.
Right.
That we would like go to the movies on like Thanksgiving, and this came out like the day before Thanksgiving that year, so
Yes,
I think we
it did.
saw
We'll
it
talk
on
about that.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Or like Super Bowl and stuff, and we would just go see movies together. So this is one of the ones that we saw together.
I think I'm in the same boat, Paige. I think me and my middle brother went to go see this together.
Yeah.
Like when I was in college and he was in high school.
Yeah, it was 2005.
Oh, then yeah, that checks out.
This is one of those movies that I have no idea when I first saw it. It's just sort of always existed for me, which is because I've watched it so many times, there's no way for me to parse out where that journey of Just Friends started for me because I love this movie so much.
Okay, so I love this movie as a comedy.
Yes.
It makes me laugh so much. As a romantic movie, I don't think it's a great movie.
Here's the thing. I thought we were going to run into a lot more bad friend zone stuff. But then watching it as an adult, I feel like the first time I saw this, I definitely sided with Chris. And as an adult, I'm like, no, she actually wanted to talk to him about it.
Yeah.
She is pretty open about the way she feels.
Yeah.
She is not the villain in this movie.
No, he totally is. He acts
totally
like a child
is.
throughout the whole movie.
Yes, I think that the way it ends, it resolves itself that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree.
But I thought that we would have a lot more problematic friend zone stuff too.
Me too. What I didn't realize in seeing this initially, and what I definitely saw watching it this time, for a while the friend zone was a thing in all movies. It was widely perpetuated. And I think this movie really does seek to be like, it doesn't exist. This is you.
Yeah.
This is your expectations that you're putting on another person because you're not being honest.
Yes.
And I feel like that's kind of great. Like, it's rough to watch sometimes, but I really actually, this holds up. This
Yeah,
movie
I think it holds up too.
solidly holds up.
So, Mikey, do you not think this is a romantic comedy?
I think this is like a straight up comedy.
Okay, but you don't see it as a romantic comedy.
Not really. I mean, I think it's more of like a concept comedy, and they're like, mainly because they don't have a lot of like moments. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I almost feel like their movie starts where this movie ends.
Yes.
There are some more moments that they cut out of the film if you watch the deleted scenes on the DVD that we watched earlier today, Natalie and I.
Uh-huh.
There are some more moments that I wish they had left in because they are sort of sweet moments. But you're right, Mikey. I feel like this is more of a bromantic comedy between him and his younger brother, learning that after 10 years apart on separate coasts, they can still love each other through the form of violence.
I will say, while this is a very unrealistic depiction of romance, it is a very realistic depiction of brotherhood.
Yes. I grew up with two older brothers, man. This is, let's just say I resonated with that younger brother a lot.
That one scene where they just beat the shit out of each other, and then he's like, can you go do this for me? Yeah, love you too. And then they like punch each other again and leave. I was like, that's it. That's what it is like.
That is having a brother. And honestly, it just made me sad. I love this movie. I love my brothers. This is the best.
I think it's very telling that on YouTube you can find multiple supercut combinations of just them slapping each other.
Yes. Honestly, how they didn't win an Oscar, I'll never understand.
And also, the actor that plays the younger brother, I think he's hilarious. He's only been in a few
He's
things.
so funny.
But I'm like, he needs to be in more.
He's been in like a million things in like 5 years. So like there was like a 5-year period from like 2004 to like 2009, and
Yeah.
that guy was in every movie.
I wonder if he just didn't want to do it anymore. There are some people who get in and make enough money to where they're happy to walk away, and then they walk away.
Chris Tucker.
Yeah.
That's why he doesn't do a ton of movies. He's like, I got money. When I need money again, I'll do another movie.
Yeah.
He's like, I was in Fifth Element. Get the fuck out of here.
Bzz,
I love Fifth Element.
bzz. Hey, is that a
It's been-
romantic comedy? Because I have thoughts about that.
It's not.
Oh, but Lilu Dallas multipass page.
Yeah. Also, I'm like, how does she have her memories if they just cloned her finger? I mean, I have a lot of questions.
Okay, we
There's
100%
so many.
can't talk about
That's not
Fifth
what this
Element.
episode's about.
Welcome back to the 5th podcast. Paige's 5th podcast she's starting.
Oh, God. It's just about the Fifth Element.
It's
Yeah,
just on the Fifth Element.
Today, we examine that dark stuff that drips down Gary Oldman's face. What is that?
Why did that exist?
Anyway, this movie, Just Friends,
Oh, yeah, we got to get into the movie. Sorry. Yeah, we got to get into the movie.
we open on a title card that says 1995, New Jersey. And we hear a voiceover of the main character, Chris, as he's basically writing out a message to his friend Jamie in her yearbook. And it is...
It's painful,
Ooh,
Paige.
he should have had somebody proofread that.
It's
yeah,
painful, yeah.
It's rough. It's...
Okay. Is it painful, or is every like romantic letter, note, or anything people write painful if it doesn't go well? You know what I mean? Like reading someone else's romantic text or or letters or cards. Always, I'm like, ugh. But I've done it. I've wrote a ton of those.
Me too. And I'm so glad that none of them exist. And I really hope my girlfriends from high school don't like release the DMs.
Not even high school, but like your parents get each other sweet cards and stuff, and you read them, and you're like, oh.
Oh, but like the shit I wrote on little notes and folded up and then handed to girls in high school. Like I just really hope that Lauren, Leslie, and the other one.
Wow.
I think you can rest assured the other one is not going to crop up.
It was Lisa. It was Lisa.
I believe if the other one is a listener, she will be releasing these notes.
I had a brain fart. I'm sorry. It was Lauren, Leslie, and Lisa were my only 3 girls in high school that were like would even date me.
How could you forget that? It's an alliteration. Anyway,
I'm tired, Paige.
it's a pretty painful note.
Yes.
It talks about how I feel like we're in our own little Chris and Jamie world. And as we're doing it, we're kind of sweeping over what is essentially like a shrine to their friendship.
God, a shrine is a good word. And it's not necessarily for their friendship. It's mainly for like them, because it's like photos bent to make it look like they're a couple and stuff. And
Yeah.
it's just not something a healthy person does.
He's in high school.
Yeah.
That's not about his weight, guys. That's about his mental health.
Yeah, he's at peak 27 dresses right now.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
But in high school, so he's still like excusable. Like, this is not a lot of life experience.
I do feel like it's excusable. Yeah. I mean, everything just
Yeah.
hits you harder in high school because it's the first time you're like in love with somebody, the first kiss or
Right.
whatever. It hits you harder.
But as he finishes the letter in her yearbook, he looks into the mirror and sings All for One's I Swear.
And I swear by the moon and the stars in the sky, I'll be there.
Oh.
I'll be
Honestly,
there.
I can't tell you how many church dances I got down to with that song. Ugh.
We got to talk about this is Ryan Reynolds in a fat suit.
It is.
Oh.
And I have a lot of All for One fun facts at the end. But yes, this
Oh
is.
my God, I'm so excited.
So the concept of the movie is Ryan Reynolds, not Chris Evans. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm getting my male crushes mixed up.
I would watch this with Chris Evans.
know.
But yes, Ryan Reynolds in a fat suit.
Every name you mention, I'm here for.
Is that Ryan Reynolds is an overweight male cheerleader who has a huge crush on his best friend Jamie.
Yes.
Now, here's something I will say. I don't think the fat suit is necessary.
Agreed.
I think you could have done this without the fat suit. There are a couple kind of fat shamey joke points throughout the rest of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
But I think he could have just been kind of dumpy and it would have had the same effect. I think you have to do a lot more work to make Ryan Reynolds look nerdy.
Yeah.
For sure.
Agree.
And I think this was kind of their shortcut to nerdiness. But I don't love that that's the target for most of
Right.
the movie is his weight.
That was pretty common in that time period.
Fully. I mean, this is Shallow Hal came out
Yeah.
within years of this.
So I mean, they could have just acme'd him up and gave him braces and like had him with like glasses on. Or
They
something.
could have given him the Simply Dusty treatment, you know?
Yeah.
Which is effective.
Yes.
Like, we'll
Yes.
get to it in just a sec.
Absolutely.
But, woo! Yeah. So his younger brother comes in, and there are quite a few homophobic jokes in this film.
Yeah. This is another one of the things that's sort of the time. And this is the only stuff that I don't feel like holds up pretty well.
This is the source of my
Right.
big guilt as an adult because, okay, so like this is the relationship me and my middle brother have is like we will just beat the shit out of each other and then like call each other, you know, slurs. But, you know, then my brother came out and I'm like, holy shit, that must have been so hurtful growing up. We had a heartfelt apology.
Aww.
I know.
I mean, I'm glad you had an apology.
Yeah.
Like, that makes me happy.
Right.
Mikey, I had sort of a similar experience. I mean, we grew up in a time when you would just throw that word around.
People said it all the time.
It was just something that someone said first, you're being stupid or whatever. And I realized that's not okay, but I didn't think about that until my sister came out.
No, it's like what happens when we grow as a culture. Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the word retarded was like it used to be like the medical term, then people used it, then it was like widely used, and then it was like, no, that's offensive. And
Right.
So like we grow as a culture.
Sure.
Thank God.
But I didn't think about it until my sister came out. So sort of like you, and I was like, oh,
Right.
wow, okay. That's horrible. So like I had a very similar experience with you. That's interesting.
Right. Now we still just beat each other up. We have to use different slurs.
Take that, honky.
That's our word.
But what he says is raise your hand if your brother's a homo,
Yeah.
and then raises his hand. At this point, Ryan Reynolds does one of the most realistic sibling scenes ever, and just the get out of my room.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't seen a more accurate yelling at a sibling scene like until I saw Pen 15.
There's so many of those throughout this film. I was like, man, this is so realistic.
Yeah.
This movie nails it. So he takes his retainer out and then like chugs a Diet Coke. And I'm like, oh man, did they set up hidden cameras of me in high school? Because yes. We cut to him on his bike rehearsing what he's gonna say to Jamie as he rides to her house. And he's trying things out like, Jamie, I want to be your boyfriend. Oh, Jamie, you want to kiss? And then he gets to the front gate and he says, Jamie, I'm opening your gate, which is really funny. He locks up his bike, which is going to come into play later.
Yeah.
And he brings his yearbook into the party and puts his retainer in his pocket. Once in the party, he meets up with his friends, Clark and Darla. This is the first time we meet them as well.
I love these two.
Yeah, these are good people.
Yeah, Clark and Darla are great. He says, I thought it was just going to be the four of us, but it is a full-blown house party.
Oh, yeah, it's huge.
Darla tells him her parents decided to throw her a surprise party, but they also are like cheering him on. They're like, tonight's the night. She's in the garage with the football team. No fear.
Yeah.
Which, looking back on this now as an adult, I really appreciate this.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, A, Jamie is single. He's not fighting with another person for her.
Right.
And everyone is basically like, you need to tell her how you feel.
Yeah. And they're being supportive.
And they're being supportive, and it's really great.
I will say this, though. When he walks away, they look at each other like, ooh, this is not going to go well.
They're like, this is going to go badly.
They're saying the right things, though. And that's what I love
Absolutely.
about it. And I do feel like they want it to work out, but they just don't think it's going to happen.
When we get to it a little bit later, I have a headcanon about her intent in this scene that we don't really see. But watching it as an adult, I had very different feelings about these scenes than I did the first time I saw this movie.
Well, he needs to tell her how he feels. That's going
Absolutely.
to create growth. So his friends are encouraging him to be honest because he can't be doing what he's doing. But yeah,
Yes.
having no faith is also kind of a realistic
Yeah.
expectation.
I think so, too. You really just have to realize the first 8 minutes of this film is a villain origin story because
Yes.
this sets up the person he becomes. And he's not a great guy.
So he goes into the garage where she's dancing with a couple different football players. My favorite is him greeting people in the party as he moves through the party. And none of them give him the time of day. They're just like, what? He gets to the garage. She immediately attack hugs him, drags him upstairs, flops onto her bed. Like she's there to hang out with him.
Yeah.
He basically immediately starts in on it where he's like, there's something I've been meaning to say. And they get interrupted first by Tim, is one of the football players.
I love
so
Tim.
funny.
He's one of my favorite characters in the movie because Tim is who Tim is, and Tim never changes.
Tim strongly resembles a guy that I dated one time. And I didn't. It was one of those things where watching it, I was like, oh no.
Paige,
Like,
with or without the bald cap?
oh no, without the bald cap,
Okay.
like with full head of hair. But also a bartender though. So, you know. So he comes up super drunk. He asks her to sign his yearbook. She says, "Can I do it later?" He says, Can I do you later?
Oh my God.
Essentially moonwalks out of the room yelling for a beer. Like,
Yeah.
he's just party stereotype number one.
But when he walks into that situation, they're sitting on the bed and he fully pushes Ryan Reynolds off the bed, and Ryan Reynolds
Yes.
drops his yearbook next to Jamie Palomino, and then Tim grabs the yearbook and walks out thinking it's his yearbook.
Because he's too drunk.
Yeah.
Because apparently Jamie's parents invited all the high schoolers over and provided them with alcohol, like responsible parents.
That exists.
Right?
There were people here who did that.
Jamie's parents in this movie are terrible. they are a level of rough in this movie that's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
So they get rid of Tim, and Jamie says, "I can't believe I went out with him." So we know that that's like an ex-boyfriend.
Which is insane because Tim is fully 40 years old.
Tim is 40 yet. Well, everyone in this movie is in their 30s. And also, I believe, supposed to be 28.
Every main character is 28.
Oh, yeah, because it's 10 years
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Next, they get interrupted by Dusty,
Yeah.
who is another nerd who is Chris Klein with long, greasy, stringy hair, tons of acne, and he's very nervous and very shy. He doesn't seem well, let's put it that way.
Right.
My favorite in the scene is Dusty because he's trying to play her a song that he wrote for her, and he keeps messing up
He's stuttering. Yes.
and stuttering, and he just goes like, "God damn it! I got it.
Yeah.
Like, as if that's not going to put people off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But if you watch Ryan Reynolds in this scene, it's amazing because the whole time Dusty's like, "I wrote a song for you," he's like making these faces like, "Oh God," like, "Oh, just leave." And then he starts to play and plays the chords wrong, and Ryan Reynolds starts to smile like, "Look at this oaf."
Well, and the smile turns to almost like John Lovitz in Wedding Singer, of just like, he's
Oh,
losing
yes.
his mind, and I'm
yes.
reaping the benefits.
But then Ryan Reynolds does do the honorable thing and be like, "Dusty, you need to leave. This is bad
yeah, like
for
you could come back and play for us later, but you could come back though.
Yeah, you can come back when you've learned how to play the guitar.
So he escorts him out, and then Jamie gives Chris a present. It's a t-shirt, and it says "Shakes come and go, but friends are forever," and it's her and Chris as cats
Oh, my
on
God.
a shirt,
Sharing a shake.
and it's a little tight.
Yeah.
And he, at this point, just says, "I signed your yearbook. Please read it." Hands it to her, and then he's basically gonna like give it to her and then wait for her response.
Yeah.
And she starts reading, and from the message, we realize it's not the right yearbook. It's Tim's, because it starts with like "Stud Muffin, hanging out with you," was like, or whatever.
Well, it's talking about like having sex in his truck.
Yeah. He realizes that Tim has his yearbook, so he runs downstairs, and Tim is reading it out loud to the whole party.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
It is humiliating. It's so sad. And I feel terrible because he was doing the right thing. He's telling her how he feels. And before she can give it any sort of reaction, he is crucified for it,
yeah.
including the shirt. He runs away through the party. He gets outside his bike. He's trying to unlock his bike. And people are just like ripping him to shreds.
As he's leaving, someone says, "Stupid fat ass," like out
Yes.
of nowhere. You're like, good
Oh,
Lord.
it's so terrible.
They're
so terrible.
brutal.
Yeah.
But he has to unlock the bike because he locked it up earlier, and it's just taking forever. She comes out, and what she says is, "We need to talk about what you wrote.
Yeah.
Is that how you feel?"
Oh,
And
this part hurts me so bad because it starts to like, oh my God, she might be in love with him. Oh, wait, she's not.
okay, so this is my headcanon.
Right.
Because of the party, I think the party ruins it. But she says that's the nicest thing anyone's ever written to me, and then kisses his cheek and says, "I love you like a brother."
Yeah.
And they mock him even harder, and she basically defends him of like, "Hey, fuck you guys."
Yeah.
And he runs away. And as he's running away, he says, "This town is full of losers, and I'm pulling out to
pulling
win,"
out
which
to
is
win.
which is a
I love
crazy
that.
thing to yell. But then she actually, and I missed this, I think almost every other time I've seen the movie, she yells after him, "Chris, let's talk. We need to talk."
Yeah.
Which I think for me says she was down to talk about what he wrote. So I don't necessarily know that this was a no. I think this is a case of like, he canceled himself out.
This was a no.
It was a no, Paige. I've got the "I love you like a brother" talk. This is a no.
Yeah.
I don't think this is, I mean, even if he fled the country, I mean, she would still write him a letter like, hey.
Yeah. No, you're right.
It's a no.
It's a no. It may have been the no he needed to hear that would have made this not a villain arc, but a growth moment.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
If he had stayed and had this conversation with her, he could have had the realization 10 years earlier that he does at the
Yes.
end of this film. I fully believe that. But no, he just goes full on villain mode now.
I don't think he's a villain. I think yes, he's a villain. But I think this incident shows him never be vulnerable again.
Yeah.
And that's the whole problem with this whole thing.
Yes,
Like, he's
absolutely.
never authentic.
It may be unfair, Mikey, to call him a villain. I just said that because...
Oh, he's totally the villain of the movie.
Well, I mean, yeah, but he's not like murdering people. He's not like a straight up
Right.
horrible,
Yeah.
horrible dude. He just is incapable from this point on being vulnerable with people, right?
And he blames her for it. Because we hear from him a couple other times where he blames her for the way he feels about people now. And I don't think it's her fault.
No.
You know, I think it's the party. I think she was willing to have a real conversation with him about it, and it just never gets to happen because he's being tortured by a room of high school students.
Well, and she was fully his friend till the end, and he
Yeah.
wanted more but was not clear about his intentions and his feelings. So she was operating under the assumption that they were friends, and they had been friends since the 6th grade.
Yeah.
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 Jamie Palomino is great the entire movie, and I don't know why I keep using her full name, but it's
Yeah.
just fun to say her full name.
Well, it's because everyone in the movie uses her full name. It's Jamie Palomino. It's Wendy Peppercorn.
Yeah.
Yes, Winnie Peppercorn. Are we supposed to believe that they just didn't talk after this night for 10 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fully
Okay.
did not chat for 10 years. But Facebook wasn't a thing yet, so that I can see that.
That's true. There are a lot of things about this movie that, like, Ubers don't exist. Facebook doesn't exist, really.
But email still exists. MySpace existed. Instant Messenger existed.
We cannot go through every form of communication that existed in 2000.
I'm just saying it's very unlikely they didn't talk for 10 years.
I don't think that's unlikely.
Me either.
I had a crush on a dude in high school that did not reciprocate it, and I have not spoken to him in 15 years.
Were you best friends from 6th grade till when you told him
Yeah,
about the
kind
crush?
of, actually.
Oh, well.
I mean, like
Okay.
I ended up with other people and other friends, and it's not the same as this movie, but like I don't think it's unusual, especially because they graduated. So it's not like he's going back to school the next year. I get the impression that he moves immediately.
I also pulled the baller move of graduating high school and like never looking back. I never went back there after I graduated.
Yeah, I mean,
So when I go to reunions, it's like pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty fun.
I'm sure it is cool, Mikey. I'm sure it's cool.
My reunion was fun, but yeah, I keep in touch with a handful of people, and that's it. So I don't think it's unrealistic that he doesn't talk to her
Me
after
either.
this. So we cut to present day in Los Angeles, where he is at a fancy Christmas party, and a girl in lingerie instead of clothes is breaking up with him.
She's a go-go dancer.
It's a going out corset. Like, it's not lingerie.
I'm more concerned about the see-through skirt because she's
Yeah.
in like a garter belt. Like, it's not a real skirt.
I mean, I think she's dressed the way she's supposed to be for the movie and her character.
Yeah, yes. But what she's saying to him is, the sex is good, but I'm a person too. Like, don't you have anything to say to this? Like, it's over. And he just says, no, I think you said it all. Like, he could not care less
No.
Right.
that she is breaking up. And then she just says, Athena, out, which is a bonkers thing to say at the end of a breakup.
Although, if I ever get broken up with again, I hope Natalie says that because it'll make me laugh. In my immense pain, I will chuckle a little bit.
And he literally like gets broken up with and turns to the woman next to him
Such a baller
and
move.
immediately hits on her.
Oh, yeah.
And she kind of claps back at him, and he says, in some cultures, they'd spank you for that. And she says, ooh, I love to travel.
And he's
I'm
like,
just
oh, we're doing this. Yeah.
hello. And he's modern day Ryan Reynolds. He's gorgeous. He's funny.
He's charming. Yes, we get it.
This is the movie that made me passionately hate Ryan Reynolds.
Really?
Yes.
See, I
What?
love him in this movie.
No, I hate him so much because he's gorgeous. He's charming. He has perfect comedic timing. Like, he has everything I wanted and expected to have growing up.
Oh, no.
There aren't homeless people more attractive than him, Paige.
There actually are.
I gotta go to L.A.
Not this again.
The economic downturn has hurt all of us, the hot and the unhot included. So we cut to him playing a pickup hockey game with a friend who we never see again really after this scene. But for me, it's just a vehicle for him to give his advice of like, basically be aloof, cut and run if it's not going to get serious, and avoid the friend zone at all costs. Basically, he sacrifices any vulnerability to avoid being hurt in the friend zone again. It is a very toxic relationship pattern.
Yes.
And in the next couple scenes, we see him answer like 4 different phone calls from women, supposedly, where he's like, no, you, next time you call me, collect, and then like hangs up, and then he's just constantly...
Yeah, what could have been said on the other side of that call that he said, next time you call me, collect?
I think it's prison. I think she's in prison.
Oh, jeez. No, she would have had to call collect if that's the...
No, I think she was going to go to prison for being so naughty.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Depending on what kind of prison you're in, you may or may not be able to...
It's sex prison.
Ooh.
But he is full on Tucker Max in these like early scenes, right?
Yes.
He's like laying down the rules of, like you were saying, Paige, be aloof, always kiss her on the first date no matter how bad it goes, which is horrible advice. And don't do lunch dates, that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of that information that he's giving to his friend guy is showcased by him flirting with a girl who's there with her friend on the ice skating rink.
Right.
That junk was so funny.
And what he ends it on was, if you feel yourself going towards the friend zone, walk away. And then he turns and says, some chick in high school effed me up bad.
Yeah.
So he does blame her for it.
Yeah,
which
but
is
which is
rough.
ridiculous.
He's full on villain mode.
Some of that advice is okay. Like, hey, make your intentions clear. Your
Yes.
feelings clear. That's good. If you are not cool with being friends with somebody, walking away is a good thing. You don't want to stay in someone's life when you have other intentions that they don't want them.
Right.
But then blaming Jamie and all that is like ridiculous. Also playing the play is not
Right.
great.
Yeah. But I mean, it sets him up in this new final form, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah, where he's an asshole.
I mean, he's gone the full Tucker Max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We cut to the record company where he works, where his boss is the guy from Office Space and Dodgeball.
God, I love this
So
guy so
good.
much. And he's
He's
so
good at
good in this
everything.
film, too, man.
He's only in 2 scenes of this movie and he steals both of them.
I love him so much. He's like yelling at the guy who's like scrubbing his floor. And he's
Yeah.
like, don't dab it, scrub it. And the guy is fully just scrubbing the floor. And he's like yelling
Right.
at him.
It's
It's
so
so funny. Oh.
But Chris walks into his office. He asks if he's going home for the holidays. He says no. He's going to Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And then he turns on a TV to reveal a commercial for Samantha James's new, essentially humanitarian pursuit,
Question mark.
Oh God.
where she's pretending to be vegetarian, which is great because we will see later in the movie that she is not.
No, she eats tuna or tries to eat tuna on the plane and then talks about needing salmon immediately multiple times.
Yeah. She is wearing a shirt that says "I heart soy."
Yeah.
And then in this like little TV spot, she says, "Me and my friend Cluck Cluck," who's a chicken that she's holding, and she's like, "and my friend Rafufi," which is clearly an indigenous person that does not know that they're in a commercial that she has ambushed.
Well, no, because they grab the chicken and leave.
Yeah, well, she just throws the chicken at them and they walk
Yeah.
away. This is basically where Ryan Reynolds' boss is like, I want her album. And Ryan Reynolds reveals that she is a crazy person. They went
Yeah.
on one date and he ended up in the hospital. And she has become famous because she has the highest selling poster in the country, which is just her with whipped cream on her boobs eating a banana covered in chocolate.
She's supposed to be like a Britney Spears stand-in.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. She's got like Christina Aguilera hair at the time,
Yeah.
but dressed like Britney Spears. But she's supposed to be that kind of pop star with a little bit of like Courtney Love sprinkled in because she very much wants to quote unquote be a rocker, but just isn't.
That's a hot take on Courtney Love.
I would say Courtney Love is a rocker.
Oh,
I would
okay,
say
okay.
I would say that this woman in this movie wants to be her and is just like, I guess I could learn to play guitar. Ooh. Like, she's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So his boss says that they want her recording contract. They want to time the CD release with her new MTV reality show. Ryan Reynolds reluctantly agrees, and his boss just says, make me happy. Go away. But if you don't make me happy, I'll find someone to make me happy. And then he screams at the guy scrubbing the floor,
Yeah.
Lobster. Get me lobster. Daddy want a fish.
Daddy
It's
want
just
a
like,
fish. I loved it. Oh my God.
Oh, and the guy runs away. It's so good.
And falls on his way out. It's such a funny scene. There's so much like physical comedy in this movie. Like
Yes.
it almost felt Buster Keaton-ish, if that makes any sense.
a little bit. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
I love Buster
slapstick
Keaton.
in this movie, and I
Yes.
love it.
Oh man, it's so good.
We cut to the recording studio where Samantha James is recording her new song, Love from Afar, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
Anna Faris acts her ass off in this movie.
Yeah, she steals this movie, man.
Oh, her and his mom steal this movie.
I
for
feel
me.
the same way. His mom is amazing. But Anna Faris, sorry, back on topic. Yes.
But yeah,
Amazing.
and she can't sing. Like, she's off key. It's terrible.
Auto-tune exists, Paige.
I don't see where you are. Where are you?
Where
She's
are
just,
you?
Where
Yeah.
are you? She yells at them for changing the key on her.
Yeah,
which-
which one of you jokers changed the key? And he's like, nobody.
Nobody.
You just suck.
It's been the same for 43 takes.
Yeah, that's
so
right. That's right.
she demands to like record with her guitar because I'm real, okay?
And then she wears the strap incorrectly. She wears
Yes.
the guitar like a big necklace.
yes.
Oh my god.
Oh, Jesus.
There are so many scenes of her just like at a 10, just yelling at people the most offensive shit. And I love it. And it's pretty racist. She's a bad person, but she at one point just says, "You and Hong Kong Phooey over there,"
Oh,
just like
yeah.
screeching at the techs in the room, and it's insane.
Yeah.
And then she starts singing to them, "You guys are assholes. You're assholes."
And then they just turn off the mics in the room so they can't hear anymore.
They just mute her.
I've done that to people in the studio. It's wonderful.
They turn to Ryan Reynolds, who has walked in on all of this, and they just say, "She's all yours." Basically, like, have fun dealing with that. She comes up and she's knocking on the glass, and he's like, "I can't hear you." And it takes her like a full minute to realize he
Oh
can't
my God.
hear
And
her.
I love that he's like, there you go. There's the light bulb. As he slowly starts to realize it. Yeah. God, he's so funny.
So she comes around out of the recording studio section into the engineering box and just she, like tackles him and kisses him.
Yeah, she tackles him tongue first, Paige.
Yes. And she says, "Are you here because you miss me or because your boss wants to sign me?" And he says, "Both." And she says, "I want to lick your skin off."
Please don't.
Please don't. But I want to.
But don't.
But don't. She tackles him to the couch and she says, "You're going to get it." And he says, "I don't want it." And then she just goes, "Bad kitty."
She's so crazy and she's so amazing in this.
So
Oh my
crazy.
god. So I've dated someone kind of like this.
Oh my
What?
God.
Mikey, tell me everything.
How do you still have all your limbs?
Oh, I gotta be careful how I word this because I worked with them. But yeah, she was pretty crazy.
Oh my God.
She was like really sweet, but like on a 10 all the time. And I was like one time she literally like we were like watching a movie and she fell asleep and she woke up and she was like, "I've got to get out of here," and then she just ran off and left.
Is she a spy? Like how? Why? What happened?
I don't know. Like if you're gonna date someone like that, you just gotta ride the wave. You know what I'm saying?
Mikey,
Oh my
I've been
goodness.
there. I have been there.
Well, and that's essentially what he does because she basically tells him, "I'm supposed to go to this party in Paris that Paris Hilton is throwing.
Yeah.
You've got to come with me. We'll get on a flight tonight." We cut to they're on the plane. Or
Wait.
no, she starts playing her new song, Forgiveness.
And his pants are like at his knees as he's like laying
Yes.
back in that chair. And as she starts playing the first chords of the song, his pants like drop to the floor. It's
Oh my
so
God.
funny to me. Like the comedy in that is so funny to me for some reason. I love it.
So she's playing Forgiveness. We cut to them on a private plane where she's still playing
Yeah.
it.
Oh god, Ryan Reynolds' face is just like,
And the song is, I mean, her music is bad. And we don't
Yes.
get enough of it in this movie. Like, I would love to hear the rest of her album.
So what you're saying is It's bad, but we need more of it.
Absolutely. Because this song is basically just forgiveness is more than saying sorry.
Sorry.
It's like nuts. And she finishes it and he just says, my God. And she says, you're sweet, and digs through her bag to get out a Tupperware full of ahi tuna. As she's grabbing it, she tells him that she also has a taser that her publicist gave her for stalkers, and then threatens to shoot him with it, but doesn't.
Yeah.
She takes the Tupperware of ahi tuna to the microwave, plops it in the microwave, still covered in foil. And as she walks past him, he just says, you're awful.
Yeah.
And as she's microwaving, she says, do you think we could stop off in Ireland and like find Bono and then he could sing on it and like be all Bono-y, like forgiveness is the way, forgiveness every day. And the microwave catches on fire.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to put tinfoil in the microwave.
Right.
They have to make an emergency landing where they're like fire extinguishing the microwave in the snow.
So in order to do that, they would have had to pull out a burning microwave from the airplane, throw it into the snow, go back and get the extinguisher,
the fire
and then put it
extinguisher.
out.
About that.
It's insane.
I like that joke.
Oh, but then they say like, who's the genius that did this? And she just said, the container said microwavable. And they're like, the foil wasn't. She says, I'm not supposed to worry about stuff like that.
I'm the talent.
Yeah. They tell them that they can't take off until the next day.
Right.
And he asks where they are. They find out that they are an hour outside of Trenton, New Jersey, in a private airfield. At this point, she says, am I being punked? Where's Ashton?
Ashton! It's so crazy.
So we know from the scene, about 2 scenes before, that his family is in Jersey. So he takes her home to meet his family.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of, hey, they're stuck there. Might as well. His mom opens the door and she screams in surprise and then immediately starts crying.
So
I love her so much.
this mom is a lot like my mom.
That's great because she's the best.
I know.
I
Honestly,
love this
she
mom.
is great. Yeah.
But just that,
My mom is an excited cry.
my boys are home.
That's we did that last weekend. Like, when we went to the wedding. As soon as me and Kevin get in the same room, she's like, I haven't seen y'all since last Christmas.
Oh, God.
God, I love your mom so much.
So they go inside. He goes back to his old room and sees essentially his shrine to Jamie, and he starts taking most of it down. We find out that it's been uncommonly cold this winter.
Yeah.
And Samantha is sitting on the couch just saying insane things to his mom, where she's just like, the middle class is just so like real, and she's just not a person. Like she
Right? Yeah.
She isn't.
she has no empathy, no vulnerability. She is a cardboard cutout of a series of stereotypes, and she is stealing this movie. It's so great.
So like all LA people.
I mean, yeah. This is also where we find out that it's been 10 years since he's been home for Christmas, or home at all.
Well, because she mentions that he normally flies them
Yes.
out for it. Yeah.
I really like that they took the time to explain that he hasn't ignored his family. He flew them out a bunch of times to LA.
Yeah.
Right. As they're talking, his younger brother Mike comes home with a stolen sign. It's like a street sign and bolt cutters.
Yeah, and he's got the chain. He's got like a chain around his
Yeah.
neck, like he's just holding it, like huffing it in. It's so funny.
So I did this as in high school.
Yeah.
Of course.
And brought it home, and my mom was like, "Oh, did you have a good night?" And then we had like these like leaving and the town name, and I hit it with my truck and then stole it. I don't think it's a felony, so I think we're probably past the statute of limitations.
I'm sure.
If we are past the statute of limitations, I would like to go ahead and report that I stole the Bonerwood Street sign 3 times for various people in my high school.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's great.
But his brother slaps him. Like, he goes to go hug him, and instead he slaps him across the face and just says, "Oh my God," and sits next to Sam.
Yeah.
Tells her that he has her poster, but she's hotter in person.
And that he just slapped his ham to it
Before we get to that, I don't know if you guys noticed, but every time somebody tells Anna Faris's character that she's hot, she just says, I know. It's so funny. But yes, he basically says, I have your poster. I just slapped the ham to it an hour ago. And then his mom says, what ham did you slap? Not the one I just bought, which is one of my favorite. My sister and I will text that to each other all the time.
Oh my God. It's such a mom thing to say too.
It is.
What ham did you slap?
Yeah.
But this is where we find out that she's like, oh, I can't have ham. I'm on the Paracone diet, so I need salmon like right now.
And she looks at Ryan Reynolds like it's his job to get it for her.
Well, and also, where is she going to get Sam? Like, it's nighttime in the middle of winter.
The Maple Bar probably has some salmon or whatever.
So Ryan Reynolds just says, I'm just going to start drinking.
Yeah.
So he takes Sam with him out to a local bar, and she's being a ridiculous diva where she's like, people are staring. Let's go. No one is staring at her.
Right.
Everyone's ignoring her. She's walking to like the bar area like, oh my God, I know. Yeah, it's very exciting. It's me. Oh my God. Oh
Yeah,
my God,
it's me. Hello. Yes. Yeah.
And everyone's like, what?
She then picks up a plastic menu off the bar and she goes, plastic menus? Well, this won't do.
Yeah, and like looks for Ryan Reynolds, but he has already left because he saw his friends from high school.
He saw his friends Clark and Darla, and he basically asked them, how have you been? And then she pops up behind him.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we're married. And she just goes, married. And they're like, we have a kid. His name is TJ. Where she's like pretending to be as excited, but she has no clue who they are.
Yeah, or what's going on. And then she like gets in Ryan Reynolds' face and is like, introduce me to your friends.
Lover.
Oh, that's
Lover.
right. She does call him lover. Ugh, I don't like that at all.
So this is also where we find out that Clark's a dentist, but he introduces her to Clark and Darla.
Yeah.
And she just says, your names are Clark and Darla? That's so cute. I want to eat you both up. And then she says, I'm going to go to the little girl's room, and then we're outie. Then points out somebody with a huge ass, kisses Darla on the mouth, and walks away.
Yeah.
Like, she treats scenes in this movie like drive-by shooting, where she just like shows up, destroys everything, and then exits out of the scene.
That's true.
It's amazing.
Yeah, she's so good.
She's so good. While he's talking to Clark and Darla, Tim shows up, now balding.
Holy shit. I love this little interaction with Tim is my favorite.
It's great. He says, I saw you at the Grammys next to P. Diddy. Hey, do you have $5 that I can like have?
And then he gives him $5.
And then he just says, class of 95, woo! Here's your money, bitch.
Yeah. That here's your money, bitch line has made me laugh for years.
Oh, so funny. As we kind of pull back from Tim walking away, we cut over to the bar where Jamie Palomino is bartending, and Darla has caught her eye and motions like it's Chris Brander. Chris sees her. She hides behind the bar, but eventually he, comes over, says hi. They hug. She asks how long he's in town, and he basically says, just the one night. Yeah. She says, you can't stay any longer. As they're talking, Sam comes out of the bathroom and just says, let's go, Chris. There's pee on the floor. And then turns to Jamie and just goes,
yeah,
like hisses like a cat. And then they walk away. And I lost my mind laughing because I had forgotten about it, and it's madness, and I love it.
You could tell me that the director had very specific choices he wanted her to make and told her to do all of that stuff, and I'd believe you. But you could also tell me that all of that was her idea, and I'd believe you.
Absolutely. You could tell me that she just made it up as she went along, like Bai Ling and Crank 2.
Yes.
And I would believe you.
I would, yeah. And she's phenomenal in this movie.
She's so fucking funny in this movie. So they start to leave, and he says, it's good to see you again. She says, give me a call. I'm living with my parents. And he says, okay, bye. Tim catches him as he's leaving and basically says, she's aged like a box of fine wine. I like that it's a box of fine wine.
Right.
Well, and then Ryan Reynolds goes, yeah, you'd know, because he's clearly an alcoholic.
Yes. And then Tim says, in high school, you could never get a girl like that. Now you can have whoever you want. You could definitely hit that.
Yeah.
Kind of dark, but that's what kicks this movie off, essentially.
Yeah, sort of.
He comes back over to the bar and tells Jamie that his flight might be delayed an extra day. Do you want to meet tomorrow? And she says, sure, for lunch. And he says, oh, like a day date. And as they're kind of making plans for the next day, Anna Faris, Sam, is at the front door and she just screams, "Chris!" And he says, "I'm busy." And then she says, "I'm busy, you stupid dick."
Oh, shit.
A plus.
Yes.
So he joins her at the front door. She grabs him by the crotch, and then they leave.
He goes, "Oh, my handballs," and she goes, "My handballs." I'm like, what is
Yes.
what is happening right now?
I know. We cut back to the house where she's asleep, and he's sitting on the foot of the bed looking at old pictures of him and Jamie, scored to Hackensack by Fountains of Wayne.
Yeah.
Which is like, if there is a song that is this movie, it is that song. And it's sad and great at the same time. So as he's going through the photos, he finds the written out list of 100 reasons why Jamie is the best that he wrote in high school. We cut over to Mike's room, his brother's room, which is covered in posters of Samantha. Like his whole wall is Samantha. They get into a slap fight. And he says, "I need you to do me a favor. I ran into Jamie Palomino last night. I need you to detain Samantha." And Mike is like, "Okay." So he tells Samantha that she shouldn't be out of touch with her audience. We got to find a cross section of your fans. Where's a good place to find that? And she says, "The mall." And he goes, "Great, the mall." So he sends her to the mall with Mike the next day.
Yeah.
Basically, go with one of your fans to relate to a fan. And she says, "You're not coming?" And he says, "No, you need to do this alone. Watch your face."
Yeah.
And then shuts the car door in her face.
I do love when he's convincing his brother to help him out, which his brother wants to do because his brother wants Samantha badly. But like, they're like fighting and slapping each other on the bed, and then Ryan Reynolds like literally sits on his head as they're having this conversation, and he's like squeezing his face, and his brother's like, "You'll always be fat to me." It's like this like insane back and forth of like them just being mean to each other. God, I loved it so much.
It's so funny. He pulls up to the Palomino house in a Porsche with chains.
I know. I thought that was
with no
insane.
chains. So
Which,
funny.
It doesn't drive well either. Like you watch it and he struggles to drive it the whole time he has it, even with the chains.
Yeah.
But this is the first glimpse we get of Jamie Palomino's house, but more importantly, the Palomino award-winning yard decorations.
Yeah, well, because they're setting him up right here.
Yep. And her dad refers to him as Mr. Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And says that he used to drive all of her boyfriends nuts till we explained that it was just her little friend, Chris.
Yeah, because he would get her a dozen roses every Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And then he asks, "How did you lose all that weight? Was it like that?" Insert slur from Subway.
Yes.
Because at the time, we didn't know that Jared from Subway was a terrifying pedophile.
I thought about that too. I was like, ooh, doesn't age well.
Nope. So Jamie calls out that she'll be right there. So he sits back in the car and talks to what I imagine is his friend from Los Angeles on the phone.
I think it was. I think it cut to him a little bit too.
It does not cut to him at all. It's just one-sided conversation, but I thought it was his friend from LA too.
Where he basically says, "I rented the nicest Porsche in town and I'm just going to play it aloof the whole time."
Yeah.
Immediately you're like, that's a bad idea. Like, don't do that. But she gets into the car and she just says, "Ooh, a Porsche." And he says, "I hate it. It's so ostentatious. It's a rental. It was all they had left." They go to a very, very cute little diner, and it's clearly a place where they used to go in high school all the time because the waitress knows them. And the waitress comes over and just says, "Oh, you're not a chubby bunny anymore," which is like, this waitress, I feel bad because he is a dick to her, but also I'm like, don't assume, like, she's not great either.
No, I feel like she is fully rude to him.
Yeah.
And those pancakes look disgusting.
Those pancakes are nuts. It's wild.
Yeah.
This is where Jamie asks him, "Why did you disappear? Were you that mad?" Which, again, is her being like, "We never talked about this. We should talk about this."
I feel like she's trying to bring it back up so they can talk about it.
Yeah.
Kind of clear the air. I mean, maybe not like, "I had feelings for you. We should try this." It might be more of like a, let's at least clear the air so we can be friends, even if we're on different coasts, you know?
Agreed. And he says, "I'm not that guy anymore. I'm not a total dweeb." And she says, "You weren't a total dweeb." Because the reality is, she was his friend.
Yeah.
Regardless of what feelings she had at the time, she truly was his friend and cared about him a lot. And he, at the time, and I think now, doesn't necessarily see that level of care. He just sees not romantic love.
Right.
and
Right.
doesn't see the value in the care that's there. But he's basically a total douche. He is mean to the waitress. The waitress brings them a giant pile of like candy pancakes, of like pancakes with chocolate syrup,
With like
M&Ms
on it, yeah.
whipped cream.
Oh, it looks disgusting.
It's disgusting.
I
And
mean, it
he's-
looks good, but it's too rich.
Yeah, and he basically is like, I can't eat this. And he's kind of a dick to the waitress about it. I do think there's probably a better way to handle that, of just like, thanks for this. Can I also get a salad? You know, like,
yeah, can I also
Right.
place an order maybe?
yeah, because she never lets them order. She
Right.
just brings the things they always used to order.
And he's like, do you have any idea what this would do to my stomach?
Yes.
Like, I haven't had this kind of stuff in forever.
Right. And he is name dropping and just kind of trying to brag and make his life seem very, very cool.
He gets a phone call from the coast,
The coast.
which is really just his brother calling him from the mall. But yeah, he
Right.
pretends it's the coast.
And we find out that she's bartending at the Maple while she's studying to be a teacher,
Yeah.
and that she had moved out of the area and just moved back.
Yeah.
At the mall, where his brother is with Samantha, she's writing a song called Mall People, which is just,
Oh God, which is so good.
mall people, they come and go. Mall people, they just don't know. We're basically seeing Mike calling Chris at the diner, and he just says, I want to run an idea by you. What if I went to Paris with Samantha?
Yeah.
And he's like, no. And he's flipping the taser around. Like
Yeah.
he's just tossing it and
Right.
accidentally engages the taser. It tases Samantha. She falls over the railing down to the first floor at the mall. People scream. The sound effects of after her
Oh,
fall
it's so good.
are amazing, because there's just, you just hear a voice like, oh my God, from the bottom floor. So funny.
It
We
is.
cut back to the diner, and this is where he just kind of continues to be a douche. Clearly, Jamie Palomino is not having fun on the date.
Oh, not at all. Yeah.
She's kind of like, thanks for lunch. It was good seeing you again, I guess. Bye. He goes in for a kiss, but instead ends up giving her like a hand hug shake.
It's a whole body shake. Yeah.
It's a whole
Yeah,
body
he picks her
shake.
up and shakes
Yeah.
her. Yeah.
And says, take care. He goes and sits back in the car and freaks out. And then she just knocks on the window because she left her gloves in the car.
I love that part so much.
So he hands them back to her. And then he goes directly to Clark's office, where he basically recaps the date.
Yeah.
And Clark says, well, you picked up where you left off. Basically, like, you're in the friend zone again.
Yeah, you're back in the friend zone.
And I would argue, I think it's only because he was an aloof douchebag.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, he hasn't seen her in 10 years, and that was their first like interaction privately. Like, what did you expect to happen? Like, you have realistic expectations.
He gets home and Mike is sitting on the porch, and he just says, we've got a bit of a problem. We walk inside and we see that Samantha has an ice pack strapped to her head, and she is eating toothpaste.
Oh, it's so gross.
And Mike says, she's got a bit of a headache. It's not that bad. She's fine. She's got her toothpaste. She's just loopy from all the Vicodin. And he says, where did you get all the Vicodin? And then he just says, from mom. And then we don't have any other information about that.
Yeah.
It's never addressed again.
That's a thread we don't want to pull too hard.
No. But he says, you said detain her. She's detained.
Yeah.
And Chris gives him a wedgie and rips his underwear out the back of his pants.
Yeah, it's an atomic wedgie.
He tackles him, spits a loogie onto him, and his phone rings. It's his boss. They call a truce, but then his brother slaps him while he's on the phone. And his boss basically says, how's my future star doing? And as he's talking about Samantha, like, oh, she's fine.
She like orbs up over his shoulder.
Yeah.
It's so fucking
And she just
funny.
smushes a mouthful of toothpaste onto his cheek, and it's so gross.
And if you think about where the younger brother was, all of that would be going on to him as well. They don't show that.
yeah, it would be dropping onto like his shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, so funny.
We cut back to the Palomino household, where they light their decorations and their yard is insane.
Yeah.
And my favorite is they have an animatronic Santa that says things like, and it's basically like, Merry Christmas, it's a Palomino Christmas again, is what it says.
Yeah.
Which is
I didn't notice
Yeah.
that.
nuts. But he calls Jamie and says, I can't get a flight out, so I'm stuck here for another day. I just want to apologize. Let's go ice skating. And his mom, see, this is back when you have a landline and you would have multiple phones on the same landline.
Yeah.
But his mom picks up the landline and thinks that she's dialing her friend and just says, hello, Joyce. And he basically says, Mom, I'm on the phone. She says, Chris, what are you doing at Joyce's?
I'm not, Mom. I'm 10 feet away from you in the living room on the phone.
Okay, well, what would you like for dinner? He goes searching for his ice skates, and his mom's like, well, I gave them away because you haven't been here in 10 years and you hated skating.
Oh, and then she sings a banger of a song about being yourself.
Because he says, I need my skates to show off my talents. And she says, you don't need to show off for Jamie. Just be yourself. Be yourself.
Yeah.
Be yourself.
I like the Be Yourself song.
And then he goes, I don't want to be myself.
And she just says, come on, Mikey and I are making snow angels. And she runs off around the back of the house, never to be seen again. He picks up a box with his snow globe collection. So it's just more of him kind of discovering the person he used to be, I guess.
A sensitive soul.
A sensitive soul. We cut to them ice skating, and he's struggling with the rental skates, and he's kind of being a douche about it. But this is where we find out that Jamie is single, and he accuses her of dating jerks. And she says, well, how about you? Are you in love with anyone besides yourself? And he says, no. Which is
So
pretty
funny,
funny.
though.
Which is the first time he's been honest with her since he's been back.
Yeah, and it's played for a joke, but yeah. They go in for a kiss and bonk heads.
Yeah.
She slides across the ice into a pile of children who she was their substitute teacher.
Yeah, and they love her.
They love her.
Yeah.
They're playing a pickup like children's hockey game, and they're like, we need a couple extra. She volunteers Chris, and he's like, yeah, but I'm in these rental skates. And they just start chanting, a good skater can skate in anything.
Yeah.
And he's the worst on the he's getting his ass handed to him.
Oh, this little girl comes over there and starts punching him and like calls him a pussy. And it's like, yeah, because he's so bad.
And they get mad at him. They're like, don't cuss in front of the kids. And they're like nailing him in the crotch and like high sticking him. It's nuts.
Oh, one of them comes in and just hacks him in the leg.
Yes.
It's hilarious.
I mean, if they do that, you have free reign to beat them up.
Well, and that's what happens, Mikey. I do feel like this is a severe Mikey moment when he finally gets he's about to like slap shot, and what happens. But like when he hauls back and punches that kid in the helmet, I was like, I feel like I'm watching Mikey.
Yeah.
He was wearing a helmet.
Yeah. I mean, he knocks all the kids out. He shoots for the goal. The puck ricochets off the top bar of the goal and then hits him in the mouth.
Yeah.
The ambulance shows up, and Jamie falls backwards into the arms of an EMT. Turns out it is Dusty Dinkelman, who goes by Dusty Lee now.
Yeah.
From the party earlier. But now he's like Chris Klein as we know him.
Yeah,
like
right.
clear skin, cut jaw.
Yeah, he's a handsome dude.
He's Dusty.
Yeah, simply Dusty.
Simply Dusty. And so he tells her basically, hey, I just moved back to town. My skin cleared up. I lost my stammer. I play a mean guitar. They accidentally lose their grip on the gurney.
So funny.
And it toboggans down the hill and like smashes his face against the ice. It's nuts. They finally get him into the ambulance, and Dusty and Jamie are kind of like almost flirting over him, where she gives him her phone number, like over Chris's body. A tank in the ambulance falls off and nails him in the crotch.
It's so funny.
It's just brutal.
I mean, you can hear him like yelling, even though he's got that stuff in his mouth. He's like, "There's bullshit." It's so funny.
Yes. So we cut to the dentist office, where Clark is basically like, oh yeah, Dusty works in this building. He's a nice guy. You know, he's kind of like, he's not the nerd he was in high school.
Right.
You've got competition. And he basically implies that Jamie's into him because he's nice and not a douchebag, or at least that's what it seems.
Right.
Right.
And so at this point, Ryan Reynolds is like, well, I'm going to show her the biggest pussy she's ever seen, and puts in his retainer. So I think it's really interesting that this movie essentially slowly transforms him into the person he was back when they were friends.
Right.
Yes.
So he comes home, or rather we cut back to his house. Samantha is no longer concussed and eating toothpaste. She's back to normal. And Mike is trying to make her feel better with snacks and magazines. And she's like, I'm sorry, I'm being a bitch. I'm just supposed to be in Paris and I'm not. My sidekick broke. And she's like, I haven't had sex in like forever.
Oh my God.
And then she turns to him and says, how old are you? And he says, 22. I mean, 2019. I'm 18, which I don't know if he is or not.
Yeah, I don't think he is, but
I don't think he is either. The movie doesn't fully tell you. But she purrs at him, and then he tries to purr back and can't do it, where she's just like, and he's like,
Yeah.
And she asks him, she's like, so you really have my poster on your wall? And he's like, yeah. She's like, how many times do you like, and he says 8 before he can like think about it.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, 8? And he's like, gets
Oh
really
my
embarrassed.
God.
And then she's like, that's hot.
And he says, you're hot. And she says,
I know.
So essentially he starts giving her a back massage while she's topless.
With the most baby oil he could find anywhere.
like a whole bottle.
I do love that she's like, more. Oh, that's enough. That's enough.
That's enough. Meanwhile, Chris arrives outside and their neighbor greets him. They're like, Merry Christmas, neighbor. And he just picks up a snowball and pelts him with it.
I love that part so much because it's such like a throwaway thing, no pun intended. It's so funny. Yeah.
Chris comes in, he pulls Mike off Samantha, and he says, I was getting you food, and he holds up like an energy bar.
Yeah.
Like that's all the food she was going to eat. But she and his brother make fun of him for his retainer.
Yeah.
Tell him that he looks like a doofus.
It's so funny.
He starts to strangle his brother, but his mom calls because he's received a get well package from Jamie with a card that has hearts, like hugs and kisses in it.
Yeah.
And his brother says, Mom writes that on my cards. And then they proceed to have a slap fight. This is the one where they like out and out fight until he almost knocks him unconscious. Like,
oh, it's so good. I broke my middle brother's arm once.
What?
ooh.
So my brother, this was a self-defense injury, by the way.
Oh, that, yeah. I'm sure that's what you told the police.
My mom has never been as mad as she was that night because we were fighting over like the computer, like we were supposed to trade off every hour or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, it's my turn, and then like he started throwing punches, and I caught his hand, and it like broke. So my mom had to go to the ER, but she was like, "This isn't who we are. We're not white trash. You guys are such trash." She like lost her shit. It was so funny and terrible.
My God.
And like, he'll bring it up like all the time to this day. He's like,
Yeah, you broke his arm, Mikey.
oh yeah, because like, and he's a doctor, so he's like, I was gonna be a surgeon.
We need to interview your brother because I want his side of the story because I'm sure it's not I threw a punch at Michael, he caught my hand and it broke my arm. I'm sure there's some actual action on your side that broke his arm.
Oh, man. Anyway, after he dispatches with his brother, he walks off sniffing a scented candle. He calls Jamie, and as he's waiting for her to pick up, he's like, total pussy. You're the biggest pussy on planet Earth. She answers, and he says, do you have any plans tonight? And she says, well, the Revival Theater is showing The Notebook. Now, here's what's really interesting, because The Notebook only came out like a year or two before this movie did. So I don't know why it's at the Revival Theater, but whatever. So call waiting buzzes in. It's Dusty. She buzzes over to Dusty. Meanwhile, his brother Mike hops on the other line and is criticizing everything that he's like, all like The Notebook. Oh my God. She comes back on the line and he basically finalizes plans for them to go see a movie and get tea after. And she says, well, you're on my way. I'll pick you up. He hangs up the phone, kicks in the door to his brother's room.
Oh, it's like perfectly cut screams though, because
Yes.
he kicks the door open and then the little brother goes, Mom!
and we cut away from the scene, but we assume that he just beat the shit out of him.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
But obviously he's got a problem. He's got to get rid of Samantha. And so he's telling Samantha, I'm trying to nurture you as an artist, but you're a pop person. And she's like, I am an artist and I was born ready. So he puts her in the car with his brother again.
Oh my God, can I just say this? Because he's like letting them take the Porsche, right? So she assumes he's going with her. But if you look, his brother was by the garage, like further into the house in the dark. And he literally skips up like with his arms moving up. Like it's such an awesome, funny choice. And he grabs the car keys, sits down and turns the car on. And then she notices what happened.
Right.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
And she says, you're not coming with me? And he says, I'll meet you there. And he tells his brother it's an open mic at the coffee house. And he says, the coffee house is lame. Think fast. And then he like Three Stooges style pokes him in the eye and drives off. We cut back into the house where Chris is getting ready. He's got his clothes and everything laid out, and I Swear is playing in the background still.
Yes.
Jamie shows up with mistletoe and hugs his mom.
Yeah.
It's it's clearly like a festive fun thing.
Yeah.
We cut back to Chris, who drools because he's wearing his retainer, and both Jamie and his mom are like, ugh. Then in walks Dusty, because he basically says, I love the Notebook.
Yeah.
And Jamie is like, is it okay that Dusty came? And he is like, yeah. Then Dusty invites his mom
Which is so funny.
to go with them, which is so funny.
Yeah.
We cut to the theater where they're watching The Notebook, noted murder-suicide film.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And all around the theater, couples are cuddling. Jamie and Dusty are crying, and so Jamie holds Dusty's hand.
Oh.
Chris's mom is crying, so she reaches over and holds his hand and just goes, oh, Peanut. And it gets me every time. So funny. We cut to the metal shop, which is formerly the coffee shop. So like the open mic that she thought she was going to is not the same one.
Oh, it's so funny.
And she's getting brutally heckled. Dusty drives everyone home, and he basically is like, man, I hope we can all do it again soon. Thanks. And then he essentially, Chris tries to take out his retainer, and he's like, oh, make sure you wash that twice a day. Put it back in your mouth. And everyone, his mom and Jamie, are like, put it back. He invites them all in for cocoa, but Dusty has to go back to the hospital. So he and Jamie go inside and have cocoa and look at their old movies and pictures. Jamie is clearly enjoying it. And for me, this is a scene to basically be like, Jamie loved him as a friend, at least, even when he was younger and weird.
Right.
She loved him for who he was.
Yeah.
And he eventually, over the course of the scene, because he starts out not laughing at it, and by the end, he's laughing too. And so it's almost like he's kind of starting to love who he was a little bit. So he goes to drive her home in his mom's car, because Mike and Samantha have the Porsche, and he found one of their own mixtapes. And they basically sing and dance all the way back to her house. He walks her inside, and his phone rings, and it's Mike from the metal shop, where Sam dives into the audience and beats the shit out of a metalhead.
She's like, it's not funny now, is it? I love that. She's so good, man.
So good. We cut to the next day, which is Christmas, and Sam is asleep. And Mike and Chris are talking behind her. Mike has Christmas cookies. He gives one to...
This is when you can really see the brotherly actual
Right.
love stuff. And I love
Right.
this part. Yeah.
Truce, I love you. Yeah.
This part like legit makes me a little sad. Like I'm like, oh, I love my brothers.
And Chris takes out a list of 100 reasons why Jamie is great, and he puts it in a Christmas card and basically tells Mike, if Sam wakes up, tell her I went to go find Bono. And he's like, I want to see Bono. And he's like, I'm not actually seeing Bono.
It's a
Like,
lie.
what part of this
Yeah.
didn't you understand? So he leaves, but as he goes outside, he realizes that Mike left all the windows of the Porsche open,
Oh,
so it is
yeah.
now frozen. And so Chris has to ride his bike to Jamie's house like old time's sake. Inside Jamie's house, Dusty is playing like concert level acoustic guitar. Like, not only can he now play, but he's amazing.
Oh yeah, he's crushing it. He's done a lot of practicing.
And then he pulls out a double-necked guitar
Yes.
and plays a song just for Jamie. This is the first time we hear Jamie smiles.
Oh my god.
Well, we heard it a little bit in the very, very beginning, but
Yeah.
badly.
When Jamie.
Yeah.
But this is the first time we actually hear him singing it. Chris feels like he's defeated. He leaves the card with the list on the table. Meanwhile, back at the house, Mike, his brother, is in the bathroom, and Sam just like orbs up behind him in the mirror.
Yeah.
Like he looks in the mirror, opens it, closes it, and she's behind him like a horror movie.
I know. It's such a classic jump scare. It's so funny. I love it so much.
Meanwhile, back at Jamie's house, he's talking to Clark, and he's like, I can't compete with, like, he's playing the song for her, like, I can't do it. And Clark basically is like, you're Chris Brander, it's Dusty Dinkelman.
Yeah.
Dinkelman's going down. So Chris goes outside to talk to Jamie while they're caroling. And as he does so, his mom's car comes crashing through the decorations. His brother leans out the window and screams, "The jig is up! Run!" But he's got this like wonderful, like high-pitched screechy scream. It's so good. Sam gets out of the car, stomps across the yard, and just says, "You son of a bitch. Is this the slut you've been banging behind my back?
Oh my God,
Santa's
yeah.
little whore. I'm going to get you fired." And so he basically walks up and says, "Well, what about your song, Forgiveness?" And she says, "Forgive this asshole," punches him in the throat.
I thought that was so funny because you think he's going to get punched in the face, but he just grabs his throat and falls to his knees.
Yeah, she's right in the throat.
Yeah.
And then she just says, "I hate this town," gets back in the car and drives away. But as she drives away, the car snags a string of Christmas lights,
Yeah.
which slowly pulls literally all the decorations down, including a flaming reindeer that is then dragged behind her car down the street.
It is mayhem in this front yard. It turns from a winter wonderland to like the most insane hellscape. It's amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So we cut back to Chris gets home and he's listening to his phone messages, and Samantha has left tons of messages where the first one's like, "I talked to my sponsor," and like, "Maybe that wasn't great." And then the next one is just like, "Please, Chris, call me back." And then the third one's just like, "Call me back, asshole." And then the last message is his mom, and it's just, "Hello, Joyce."
Joyce?
Which
Yes.
means that she would have had to like call his cell phone number and think it was Joyce, which makes no sense, but it's really funny.
I think what we should be talking about in this movie is the intervention they should be having for his mother's Vicodin addiction. But we never get to see that.
Do you think Joyce is her dealer?
That's so funny. No.
Yeah, I do.
Clearly, it's Dusty. So Jamie shows up at his house and he basically says, "I'm sorry, I'll pay for everything." And she says, "I'm not here to collect. I just want to talk to the guy who wrote me this." And it's the list of 100 reasons why Jamie's the best. So she clearly found the card that he
Yeah.
left. They basically have ice cream and look through their yearbook and all the pictures he has of them together. And he finally kind of admits that he was a douche because he was nervous and lame.
Yeah.
Like he kind of
Yeah.
is like, "I'm sorry, I was an aloof asshole."
This whole part is their only like romantic comedy part.
Yeah.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, again, I do think their movie starts at the end of this
Yeah.
movie. But she does ask him, "Is your life everything you wanted it to be?" And he basically is like, "I always thought that if I could have like all the money and the girls and this body, that my life would be great." And it is. I love that he's just like, "Yeah." And he asks her kind of where she sees herself in 10 years. And she says she sees herself teaching, getting married, and raising a family. And he says, "It's late, I'll take you home." And she says, "Or I could sleep over like old times." So she kind of gets into pajamas, climbs into bed with him. I feel like she's clearly putting out signals that she wants to sleep with him.
Oh, for sure.
I definitely think so. Yeah.
But he's not sure. And so he chickens out and they just go to sleep. And he has kind of a voiceover that's like heckling him about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But one of the voiceovers is, "Well, what if she wants to stay friends?" And this is probably the first time that he addresses the idea that she might want to stay friends and he cares about that.
Yeah.
And that he wouldn't want to ruin it. So he just sleeps next to her, and we get the second movie in a row where someone has a clapper.
Oh, shit. Yeah. They don't use it to as good of effect in this movie
No.
as they did in Holiday, though.
Right. We cut to the next day, and Jamie's talking to Darla, and she's actually kind of mad that he didn't make a move,
Yeah.
but also she didn't make a move because she didn't know what to do. And she basically gets to like, "Well, maybe I don't compare to LA girls." Like we cut to him and Clark, and we realize that the reason he didn't make a move, he's like, "Well, what happens then? Does she come to LA? Do I come here?"
Yeah, because
It's not just enough for him to sleep with her. Either they're going to be friends or it's going to be more. But he can't just sleep with her,
Yeah.
basically, is what he's come to. And so he says, "I'm right back in high school again. I got to walk away." And so he's going to leave. He's going to fly out. On their way down through the lobby, they run into Dusty, who's singing basically Jamie's song to a nurse named Janice. And just replaced Jamie's name with Janice.
Janice smile.
The funny thing about Janice is she's in a sexy nurse costume. Like, she's not in Scrubs. She's clearly in like a Halloween costume. But they confront Dusty about it, and he's like, well, Jamie's just another bee in the hive.
Yeah.
And he's like, cut the nice guy. Like, you're also trying to sleep with her. It's pretty sweet revenge.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And then he sits down on a couch and steals another patient's apple juice and just drinks it.
Who's in like a catatonic state. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then Clark is just like, it's the man's juice. But this is basically the first time we see that Dusty is fucking evil.
Yeah.
Like
He is the
straight up
worst.
evil.
Yeah.
We cut to, they're driving to the airport. Clark is telling him about the daycare that they're looking at for TJ. Chris jerks the wheel to go back to town. Clark screams, Mariah Carey, as it jerks across the freeway.
For no reason.
Yeah, once they're back and not gonna die from swerving across traffic, he just says, this is a Pontiac Grand Prix.
We could have just taken the exit and turned around.
But he basically says, I can't let Dinkelman get away with this. So they show up to the Palomino's house, where it is a war zone.
Oh, yeah. There's like scorch marks in the snow. Oh, it's so funny.
They have somehow managed to like burn snow
Yeah,
in this yard.
it's really funny.
I love when he goes to the door and knocks on the door and like Mr. Palomino comes to the door.
Right.
And he's like, I'm so sorry. I'll pay for all of this. And then the flaming reindeer falls behind him and he goes, and that.
Yeah. But he says, I need to talk to Jamie. And he says, Jamie's off with Mr. Lee. And Clark says, the dry cleaner? And then which is racist, but great wordplay.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, Dusty. Like, what are you talking about? We cut to, it looks like a church, but I think it's actually the school.
Oh, I thought it was a church. Okay.
It could be either because it looks like it's her class of kids. But that could very well be Sunday school.
Yeah.
Who knows? Regardless, Dusty is playing Christmas carols for the children. The kids love him. He plays Jamie Smiles. Chris walks in and pulls Jamie basically backstage to try and tell her about what he saw earlier that day.
Yeah.
And Dusty peeks through the curtains backstage and just says, would you like to join us in a carol to celebrate the birth of our Lord? And he tackles Dusty. They get in a fight. The children are cheering for Dusty, and they're trying to see if Dusty's okay. And while they're not looking, he like flicks his tongue to basically be like, ha, it was all a ruse. I'm still very evil.
I love that he does that and then goes back to like pretending to be passed out.
Yeah. We cut to, he's back in the car with Clark, and Clark is basically saying, don't sweat it. We'll go to the Maple tonight. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Chris goes back into his house. He grabs his suitcase, walks out, and we cut to him sitting at the bus stop with Tim drinking. The bus arrives. He gets thrown off the bus for being drunk, literally in front of the Maple.
Because he's badgering the bus driver to pull his finger. Did you hear that?
Yes. Yeah.
I love that. That was so funny. I mean, he's drunk at this point, though. He's living that Tim life.
Living that Tim life. He gets tossed off the bus in front of Jamie's work, the Maple. He walks inside, and Dusty is going to play there tonight. And he walks up to Jamie and basically says, I just want to apologize. And she calls him an asshole. And Dusty pops over and is like, hey man, maybe you should go sleep it off. But then leans in and is just like, you lost your chance, man.
Yeah.
Like, now I'm gonna do it. And it's oof. He picks up one of Dusty's albums that he's trying to sell, and it just says Simply Dusty. And he just says, Simply Dusty. Is there any other kind? Which, so good. And Jamie says, hey, you don't need to worry about anything between Dusty and I. Like, that's not your business. Dusty and I are friends. And Dusty says,
I hope for not much longer.
Yeah.
And Jamie turns and is like, what did you say? And he said, well, I thought we could take the next step. And then she is very upfront and very clear about her feelings and just says, I think you're nice and charming and sweet, but I don't feel that way about you.
And then he says some of the grossest shit I've heard.
It's insane, but he kicks it off with, F this, I'm mobile.
Yeah,
Right. Yes.
But he like says, what kind of person would you have to be to have let me write a song for you and not put out? I was like, oh my God, that's insane.
Yep. He walks out of the bar.
He doesn't just walk out of the bar. He walks up, smacks a chick on the butt, and then like flexes towards her boyfriend or whatever.
He just goes, what?
Yeah.
It's really funny.
And it just walks out. It's insane.
He's an untethered monster. Ridiculous.
His album should be called Dusty Unchained.
Dusty Unchained. And at this point, Jamie is like, why are you messing with my head? And he's like, oh, me, you've been torturing me since high school. You're the biggest tease and you peaked in high school. which is he says horrendous things to her.
Yeah, I was like, this is super mean.
And here's the thing. Jamie has been honest this whole time. If anyone is playing with or torturing anyone, he is torturing her because he hasn't been honest with her, even up till now.
Yeah.
He gets on the flight home to LA. He gets to his house. He throws his luggage over basically a cliff.
And throws a fistful of cash into the passenger side window of the taxi driver, too.
Yeah, just like a handful.
But you're right. He does throw his luggage off the cliff, and you hear like a car alarm going off and like a crash down there. It's so funny.
He walks through an amazing house.
Yeah.
And who is waiting there but Samantha?
Yeah. I love her explanation. He's like, how did you get here? And she goes, oh, my bodyguard let me in.
Yeah. But he says no, and she's like, what do you mean no? And he basically says, this isn't about you. And she says, well, you can have any other girls. Like, I like girls like Darla. And he says, I don't want other girls. I want one girl, and it's not you. And she tases it.
Yeah.
Right?
In the nuts.
In the nuts. He grabs her, which transfers the current, so she gets a bit of a shock too.
Yeah.
And tackles her, and she says, yeah, it's go time. And he says, that's not how this works. You can't torture people into liking you. You just have to put yourself out there and hope people like you back.
Yeah.
Which is like he's finally learned it,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And she says, I'm sorry I'm not boring, and I'm sorry I'm not poor. Crazy. So he flies back to New Jersey, gets to the bar for New Year's, but Jamie's not there. He goes to her house where she's watching the ball drop alone. She initially slams the door in his face.
Yeah.
And he apologizes. He's like, I said a bunch of terrible stuff. I haven't been a good friend. And I was afraid to be your friend because I'll always want more. But I'd rather have you as a friend than not at all. But it's basically him being completely honest for the first time in the whole damn movie.
Yeah.
She's like, why are you here? And he's like, I want to take you on a date. And I start sobbing.
Yeah.
This is where I cry in this movie.
Yeah.
They finally kiss. And then we cut to the kids who are in her class next door watching them. And it basically plays out where one of them allegedly is in the friend zone. I feel like you could cut this last scene with the kids out.
could.
and
You
the movie would be
absolutely
fine.
could. Yeah.
But that's the movie.
Yeah.
Roll credits.
What did you guys think about it, having seen it many times at this point and talked about it? Do you guys still love it?
I still love this movie.
Same.
Yeah, I still love this movie. I hadn't seen it in a long time, and so I wasn't sure if it was going to hold up, but it holds up. I love this movie.
This is a movie I watch every year. Natalie and I watch it every year, and it is fun every time. There are some stuff like that we pointed out that is a little problematic because times have changed. It's been 15 years since this movie came out.
God, I feel old. But yeah,
But yeah, it's great.
it is really great.
Yeah, so you guys want to hear about the alternate ending?
Yes, please tell us.
Okay, so the moment he goes back to LA the first time, the same scene where he throws the cash into the cab driver, throws his luggage off and hits the car below, he walks in, but instead of Anna Faris being there, it's 3 women, and they're like playing with a beach volleyball on his like back patio area.
That's right, because
And
it was in the trailer and gets cut from the ending film. Yes.
It doesn't really quite explain who these 3 women are, but it seems like he's dating all 3 of them at once, and they're like on board for that. And anyway, so he like goes on the balcony, they start drinking, and he starts talking about how like he has this great New Year's Eve planned for them and all these great things they're going to do. And then someone's like, do you have any tunes we could listen to? And he's like, yeah, of course I do, or whatever. So they put on Dusty's CD because one of them reaches into a bag and pulls out Simply Dusty and puts it on. And then that triggers like all this emotion in him. And he starts like confiding in them like the story. And then like,
Oh my gosh.
anyway, so that is what eventually gets him to go back New Jersey to see
I
her again.
like that too.
I do like that. I think it doesn't hold as much weight because we don't know those women.
I feel the same too. Also, there's another bit that they took out of the ending that I love, and it's Ryan Reynolds at his office getting off the elevator, and his boss is there like yelling at him like, what did you do? I can't believe you did this. Like, the only thing I could do to describe someone who did what you did is genius. As they're walking to that big lobby area, and he goes, I don't know what you did, but you tortured her in just the right way that she wrote 10 of the most angsty power ballads you could ever believe. It's going to be a huge hit. And we see her down there like playing piano and like singing this song. And it's not great, but it's not Forgiveness, you know?
Yeah, he like Gwen Stefani'd her,
Yes,
basically.
absolutely. It's so funny.
so
It is
funny.
so funny. There's also a deleted scene with Alanis Morissette in this because Ryan Reynolds and Alanis Morissette were dating at the time. And I really wish they had left that in because she is a delight. But they cut it
Always.
out for time, I think.
Yeah.
But Paige, do you have any fun facts for us?
I do.
Noise.
So it took 4 hours every day to put the fat suit on Ryan Reynolds.
Oh my
man.
gosh.
Which, like, after learning that even more, I'm like, you didn't need it.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't need it.
Why put
you
him
know?
through that?
But one of the times he was wearing it, he stepped outside in full fat suit makeup, and a fan came up to him and asked if Ryan Reynolds was inside on set. Didn't recognize him.
Oh, that's so funny.
And he said yes and pretended it wasn't him.
Oh,
Where he was
that's
just like, oh yeah, if
amazing.
you go into craft services.
That's amazing.
So for Anna Faris to keep up with Samantha's like energy level and aggressiveness, she just continually chugged Red Bulls before every scene.
Oh my God.
Just like hyped up on caffeine the whole time.
That sort of explains the energy levels there.
Agreed.
Yeah.
In a deleted scene, Alanis Morissette plays herself.
Yeah.
And again, it was because they were dating. And in every scene that we see actors inside a car, one of the car windows is rolled down, even though we've set up that it's super cold. And this is most likely because the window caused a glare and the audience would have been able to see the camera, which is something I talked about on Horror Virgin this week.
Yeah.
But like, that's why that happens. So you see the Porsche's windows down all the time. There's not a ton of other fun facts, but I did try to look up how much it costs to have a private jet from Los Angeles to Paris.
Okay.
And domestic charter flights like that start at $6,000 per leg.
Oh, man.
So round trip would have been 12 within the US.
Oh my gosh.
I would say internationally double that.
Probably,
So that's
yeah.
like a $20,000 flight, essentially.
That's insane.
That's wild. Also, from an episode of Mythbusters, aluminum foil will probably not make your microwave catch on fire, but it will probably break your microwave.
Yeah, it'll short it out or something like that. I
Yeah.
remember that episode vaguely.
Are you guys ready for some all for one fun facts?
Yes.
Okay, I fell into a deep all for one rabbit hole.
I love it.
Because I Swear is a great song.
It is.
They had other great songs at the time as well. And so I was looking for, as we were trying to work on the theme song for this episode, I was looking for videos of them singing it, and I found a video of them singing it live recently. And I was like, that's weird, because it was from like 9 months ago. So basically at the beginning of coronavirus, they were singing this live. And it's the original lineup. And they still have it. It sounds exactly the same.
Yes.
Awesome.
I'd see them in concert.
Fun fact, the reason they were doing it live and they were doing it on a bunch of TV shows live right around 9 months ago is because they were supposed to have a Las Vegas residency that got canceled because of coronavirus.
No.
So, like, go give all for one all the love you can because they deserve it. They still slap and they can't have their Vegas shows, really.
They slap like the Christmas ham.
What ham did you slap? Not the one that I just bought. But those are our fun facts.
Well, thank you for those fun facts, Paige. You guys want to do some box office?
Yeah, I'll
Yes.
just do it.
So I don't actually have the budget for this movie. I looked for it and could not find it anywhere. It came out on November 25th, 2005. So literally a month before Christmas, the day after Thanksgiving. And it was 6th that week it came out. The number 1 movie that week was Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. And then
Ooh, makes sense.
Walk the Line, Mine, Yours, and Ours, Chicken Little, Rent, and then Just Friends was number 6. And it made $9.1 million at the box office that weekend, but went on to make $42 million worldwide.
Wow. Okay, that's not bad.
No, it did pretty well. And then it made another $26 million in the home market arena. So it did well.
It got legs, yeah.
Yeah, it did well.
Yeah.
I mean, people still talking about this and watch this movie. It's great.
It's true. I mean, but because it got terrible reviews. That's another thing. The reviews on this movie are terrible.
breaks my heart.
And they're by people who don't understand joy.
Yeah.
But given the reviews and how kind of small of a movie this is, I would have thought that it was going to make $525,600.
Oh my god.
Hell yeah with that Rent shit. I love it, Paige. Hell yeah.
Ooh.
Get it.
That was amazing.
Get it.
But yeah, so that's box office.
I love this movie.
Yeah.
It endures forever.
It's so great. So do you guys think they stayed together?
I think they did.
I think they did too.
I think they did.
I definitely think they could have. She would have had to have moved, or he would have had to have given up his job and moved home.
I think he gives up his job and moves home.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he gave up his job and moved home. Also because the recording industry collapsed like 4 years after this.
Yeah, he fully would have lost his job anyway.
I would love to see a more serious, dramatic romantic comedy with Ryan Reynolds and Elizabeth Smart, who I've had a crush on forever.
You mean Amy Smart?
Amy Smart, yes. I'm sorry. Elizabeth Smart was a kidnapped child.
Yes.
So that is a bit of a misnomer there. So I've had a crush on Amy Smart forever. But what if they like came back and did it like 10 years, like they did a 10-year later sequel?
You want the before trilogy, but with the Just Friends characters? I'm on board for that. Yes.
Here's the thing. I'm on board for it. Samantha becomes like a Lady Gaga level
Yes.
famous.
Yes. Absolutely.
And we get like a Get Her to the Greek movie.
Yes.
And Dusty is her like guitarist in her band, and it's about them falling in love.
Oh my God, but then he dies of cancer. Here's what I'm thinking. I want like a behind the music of her.
Yes.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Like a mockumentary.
That would be amazing. So this week, Paige made us watch Just Friends. What are we watching next week?
Next week, we have a bit of a special episode. I know we're thick into Christmas. We're in the thickest part of Christmas.
Oh, it's real thick.
No, we're like pre-Christmas. But we're going to go long and we're going to go hard on Christmas.
Oh,
I'm here for it. I am here for all 12 days of Christmas. But we're going to take a tiny detour.
A reprieve, you might say.
A reprieve, because we have a special guest next week.
Yes.
And for that special guest, we're going to be watching Twilight.
Yeah.
The first Twilight.
I'm so excited.
I've seen this movie before. It is bonkers, and I can't wait to talk about it.
I've only seen the first two, and I've only seen them once.
So first of all, the second one's the funniest one, but the first one's still pretty hilarious. I have seen Twilight. I don't know that I've seen the last one, but I've definitely seen the first one. I've read all the books. Our guest read the book for the first time this past month and saw the movie for the first time this week.
Oh my
So, like,
God.
It is her first time.
I cannot wait.
So I am so excited to talk about it.
Yeah, can we talk about who it is?
Sure. So next week, we will have Jackie Zabrowski from Page 7 joining us for Twilight.
I am so excited. You guys have no idea.
This is going to be great.
It's going to be so great.
Yeah.
I am super excited. It's going to be a blast. We're going to have so much fun, and I can't wait for you guys to listen. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, I can't wait. All right, guys. So this week, your homework is to get wine drunk and watch the first Twilight movie.
I think per Jackie's request, get White Claw drunk and watch Twilight while eating hot dogs if you can.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Mikey, do you have a review for us to read?
No.
All right. Well, while you get a review, let me tell you how they can have their review read on the podcast. And that is simply to leave us a 5-star text review on Apple iTunes. And, Mikey will read it on the podcast. It is that simple.
So this one is from Glenn Coco 1993.
Oh, Glenn Coco.
You go, Glenn Coco.
The title is...
4 for you, Glenn Coco.
The title is As You Wish.
Aw. That means I love you.
She says, you asked for review, so I'll be the Wesley to your Buttercup.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
I had to pause the 50 Shades episode because the volume of my laughter was horrifically inappropriate for a workplace setting.
Same, girl. Yeah.
And my coworkers already think I'm a little off.
Same.
Tears of laughter and side cramps around in every episode, and I can't live without you guys.
Aww.
In the most non-Christian way. Wait, hold on. I can't live without you guys in the most non-Christian gray way possible. Paige and Todd, you guys are awesome, but sexy monocle Mikey.
What?
Special place in my heart.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Did we get a love connection here in the reviews?
Love at first sight.
I did not read that until I got to it. I am blushing. Keep being sappy, which I think is to me probably.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Aw.
And it says Courtney.
She left her real name?
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. We got to find Courtney. Courtney, if you would reach out and we'll see if we can get you on the upcoming season of Love at First Sight. That would be great.
This monocle's for you, Courtney.
And none for Gretchen Wieners.
Oh, that is awesome. Thank you so much for that amazing 5-star review. And guys, if you want to have your review read on the podcast and or your chance to be on Love at First Sight with Mikey, leave us that 5-star review.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, guys, if you like this power throuple that we have here on this podcast, make sure to check out our other podcast, The Horror Virgin. And that is the only other podcast that Mikey and I are on. But Paige gets around, and she is on 2 other podcasts, Black Card Rehab and Cult Podcast. So, guys, definitely check out those because they're amazing. If you want to follow us on social, we are at Romancing the Pod Show.
Yes.
On Instagram, and we are at something else on Twitter who I just have never taken the time to learn
It's just Romancing Pod Show because they have a character limit and it's show SHO like Showtime.
So guys, check that out as well. And if you want to follow us all individually, Paige is at Rampage Wesley everywhere, including TikTok, except for Twitter, where she is at Paige Wesley. Mikey is at MRandolph24, and I am at Todd J. Awesome everywhere.
So that's going to be it for us this week. I'm Paige.
I'm Mikey.
And I'm Todd, guys.
And you complete us.
To completion.
Oh my God.
Laters, babies!
Oh.
Forgiveness is more than making podcasts.
Oh.
Podcast.
I wrote you every day.
For a year.
Unfortunately, it was these songs.
La, 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 la.